I woke in a hospital bed, without the energy to even grow a fingernail. It took me maybe 15 minutes to be able to get the buzzer to alert medical staff of my condition. They immediately responded with a crash cart and more staff than you could fit into the room. During this early intervention time, I left my body. I didn't see myself in bed, but I left the body for sure. I went to a place where I had no body and drifted in space above a hard, flat surface. I was a long way off the ground. I was drifting while being suspended, but still wide awake and very aware of my surroundings. I found myself floating above a mesmerizing sky, filled with a multitude of individually colored drops. They resembled candies, like licorice or those with chocolate inside, each one unique in its own way. The sky itself seemed to be composed of these enchanting drops, stretching from the right to the left above me, filling the entire expanse. Despite my distance from them, I could observe each drop individually as they gracefully moved across the sky. It was a captivating sight, one that could have held my attention for hours on end. I had the ability to teleport simply by imagining myself in a different location. In my mind, I could see a mesmerizing sight of chocolate-colored drops cascading down from the sky, resembling a vibrant waterfall. These drops descended from a great height, forming a beautiful wall of colors as they fell into a vast chasm below me. I cautiously approached the edge of the gap and leaned over to get a better look. To my surprise, there was no visible bottom. Countless candies were cascading down from above, disappearing into the depths of the waterfall far beneath me. The experience I had was truly incredible. If given the opportunity, I would go back to that place without any hesitation. I was only gone for a few hours, but I later found out that the medical staff had to stay in my room the entire morning, constantly monitoring me. They watched over me for hours on end without taking a break. Throughout this medical event, I remained still in my physical body for about 4 or maybe 5 hours. This story was shared by Gary F. and happened in 2012.
I vividly recall the moment it occurred, as I began to experience tunnel vision. With my mother standing behind me, I managed to utter the words, "Mom, catch me." I heard a sound that was similar to applause or white noise, but it was muffled and hard to identify. I will never forget the overwhelming feeling of euphoria that washed over me before I regained consciousness. I don't remember seeing anything specific, but it was as if all the complexities and burdens of life were suddenly lifted. I felt a sense of freedom and happiness like never before. I recall looking down and seeing what appeared to be a stage with lights along the edges, and the ground beneath me seemed to transform from light into wood. The sound around me was like pure static, but I wasn't confused or scared by it. Upon awakening, I was filled with a mix of awe and astonishment. Everything seemed unfamiliar, including the staircase and banister that I had seen countless times before. It was a strange sensation, but I didn't immediately feel alarmed. However, as the seconds ticked by, a sense of unease started to settle in. Despite the growing fear, I fought to stay conscious until the emergency medical technicians, EMTs, arrived. To their surprise, they initially thought I was having a panic attack, as it was uncommon for someone my age to suffer from a heart attack. I managed to gather enough strength to show my frustration towards those around me. As I was being transported to the hospital in the ambulance, I fought to stay awake, even though all I really wanted was to slip back into unconsciousness. It felt like I was suffocating, desperately trying to stay above water. The last thing I remember before waking up 2 days later is my frantic struggle with the EMTs, convinced that the oxygen mask was suffocating me. The words "Code Blue" echoed in my ears as everything faded into darkness. After receiving CPR, I defied the odds and regained consciousness. It was an incredibly surreal moment when I opened my eyes and saw my sister, who lives far away, standing beside me in the hospital room. Considering the seriousness of my condition and the extensive medical interventions I had undergone, waking up was something that no one had anticipated or expected. This particular near-death experience is the only one that I can remember, even though I flatlined 3 more times. I am currently grappling with a sense of duality within myself. It feels as though a part of me has been lost, not necessarily a good or bad part, but simply a piece of who I used to be. In order to gain something else, I had to let go of something. I've noticed changes in how I process information, with a sharper memory and certain things coming more easily to me now. I've questioned whether these changes are just in my mind or if there may be some underlying brain damage. But tests have shown that both my brain and heart are healthy. The fear of death no longer consumes me, as I've come to realize that my identity is not solely tied to my physical body. This story was shared by Casey and happened in 2016.
No matter how many years have gone by, this experience is etched in my memory, as if it just happened. During my coffee break at work, I decided to take a shortcut. While walking between two parked cars, I was unexpectedly struck by a blue passenger van that had swiftly changed lanes without noticing me. I recall thinking to myself, "Oh no, I'm in trouble." The impact caused me to spin backwards, and in that moment, I caught sight of a maroon van with silver-painted bumpers approaching me in the same lane. In that moment, it was hard to believe, but I was floating above myself. In a cramped space between two parked cars, I found myself closer to the one in front. I was curled up on my left side, facing the street. The sky was filled with clouds, and as I gazed upwards, I could see them drifting by. Although the nearby building wasn't particularly tall, I could catch glimpses of what lay beyond it. There was a presence above me, but I didn't pay much attention to it. I could only assume it was the train platform. I was overcome with an indescribable feeling of pure joy and tranquility. As I hovered above the earth, an unexpected sight caught my attention: a man strolling towards me on the sidewalk. It was perplexing because, based on my elevated position, I shouldn't have been able to perceive him. However, in that profound moment, thoughts of my expectant wife inundated my consciousness, reminding me of my duty to stay by her side. In an instant, I was back within the confines of my physical body, observing myself drawing nearer and nearer. Although the entire encounter transpired in a fleeting instant, it felt astonishingly tangible and authentic. I received assistance from a compassionate man after I had a fall. This person kindly helped me to stand up and even inquired about the color of the truck that caused my accident. Unfortunately, due to my disorientation, I mistakenly stated that the truck was maroon instead of blue. The kind guy then accompanied me back inside the building, where the staff promptly contacted an ambulance. Interestingly, it was later discovered that this person had reported that I slipped on the curb, but I have a suspicion that he may have been the one responsible for the accident. After a thorough examination, the paramedics determined that it was necessary for me to be transported to the hospital for further evaluation. They conducted a meticulous assessment of my body and determined that there were no fractures or internal damage, although my left side had sustained significant bruising. Despite the discomfort, I was adamant about being discharged and returning to my wife at home. After signing some documents, I was finally allowed to leave. My supervisors kindly drove me home, but I was in a rough state for about a week and had to spend most of my time in bed. As someone who tends to be skeptical, I have spent a long time searching for logical explanations for what happened that day, but I have found none. I am certain that I had an out-of-body experience. While my family is aware of this incident, I have only shared it with a few individuals throughout my life due to their disbelief. Nothing and no one can convince me that what I experienced was not real. This story was shared by Charles K. and happened in 1982.